not the stupid.
Nobody delivers a press conference plot twist quite like Rafael Nadal. Asked if he's glad Djokovic exists, Rafa sips his juice and casually drops, "I'm not stupid."
Are you glad that Novak exists?
No. I like challenges, but I'm not the stupid.
Game, set, match.
That's pretty funny.
Rafael Nadal just said something that the entire tennis world cannot stop talking about. And the more you think about it, the more you realize it might be the most controversial opinion he has ever shared publicly, not about his opponents, not about the game itself, but about the very record that defines his legacy versus the one that defines his greatest rival. In the Netflix documentary simply titled Rafa, Nadal was asked a straightforward question about whether future players might one day surpass the sport's most celebrated milestones. His answer was calm, measured, and utterly explosive. He said, and these are his exact words, "You never know, but if you allowed me to bet money, I think it will take longer for someone to surpass 14 Roland Garros titles than 24 Grand Slams." That sentence, that one sentence, has split the tennis world right down the middle. Because what Nadal is essentially saying, whether he intended it this way or not, is that what he did at Roland Garros is harder to replicate than what Novak Djokovic did across his entire career. He is saying that 14 titles at one tournament on one surface, in one city in France, is a more permanent mark on the sport than 24 Grand Slam championships spread across every surface, every continent, and every generation of competition. And the moment those words left his mouth, the debate that tennis fans have been having for over a decade erupted all over again with a completely new level of intensity. To be fair to Nadal, his argument is not without merit. In fact, when you sit with it for a moment, it is genuinely difficult to dismiss. Think about what 14 Roland Garros titles actually means in real terms. He played the French Open 22 times and won it 14 times. That is a winning percentage at a single Grand Slam that no other player in the history of the sport has ever come close to matching at any major. Not Federer at Wimbledon. Not Djokovic at the Australian Open. Nobody. The closest comparison anyone has ever managed is Djokovic himself, who has won the Australian Open 10 times, and even that number, as remarkable as it is, does not touch what Nadal built on the clay of Paris. And the physical argument is real, too. Clay is the slowest surface in tennis. Points are longer. Rallies are more punishing. The wear on your body is immense. Every match at Roland Garros feels like a war of attrition, and Nadal won that war 14 times over the course of nearly 2 decades. He lost there only 3 times in his entire career. 3 times in 22 attempts. The statistical dominance is so extreme that it almost defies explanation, and it is precisely because of how extreme it is that Nadal genuinely believes no one will come close to touching it within his lifetime. But here is where the conversation gets complicated and where a large portion of the tennis world believes Nadal's logic starts to unravel. When you hold up 14 Roland Garros titles against 24 Grand Slam titles, you are not comparing 2 equal types of achievement. You are comparing specialized dominance on one surface against total dominance across the entire sport. Djokovic did not just win 24 Grand Slams. He won them on hard courts in Melbourne, on grass at Wimbledon, on clay in Paris, and on hard courts again in New York. He did it in multiple decades against multiple generations of opponents, through injuries, through controversy, through everything the sport threw at him. His record represents something fundamentally different from Nadal's. It represents the capacity to be the best in the world across every single condition the game can possibly produce. And that distinction matters enormously in the GOAT conversation. Because when tennis historians look back on this era 50 years from now, the question they will ask is not who dominated one surface more thoroughly than any human being ever has. The question they will ask is who was the most complete champion the sport has ever seen. And by that measure, 24 Grand Slams, one on every surface, in every era, carries a weight, that is simply different from 14 titles at one tournament. What makes this even more interesting is the unintended consequence of Nadal's own argument. By framing his 14 Roland Garros titles as the harder record to break, he is actually, perhaps without realizing it, reinforcing the idea that Djokovic's record is the more universally significant one. If your greatest achievement is so tied to one specific surface that it stands apart from the broader measurement of Grand Slam success, then you are almost conceding that the general measure, total Grand Slams, belongs to someone else. And right now, that someone is Novak Djokovic. The social media reaction to Nadal's comments has been exactly what you would expect. His supporters have rallied behind the argument enthusiastically, pointing out that clay court dominance at that scale is genuinely unlike anything the sport has ever produced and may never produce again. They argue that Nadal is simply stating a mathematical reality. The probability of any future player winning Roland Garros 14 times is astronomically low, given how hard the tournament is, how many elite clay court specialists exist, and how unpredictable sport is at the highest level. Djokovic's supporters, on the other hand, have pushed back hard. Their counterargument is straightforward. If Nadal's record is so impressive precisely because it is limited to one surface, then by definition it cannot be compared to a record that spans all surfaces. The 24 Grand Slams are a more demanding standard because they require excellence everywhere, not excellence in one place. And then there is the broader context of where both men stand in history right now. Nadal retired last year after a career that even his harshest critics would describe as one of the greatest in the sport's history. Djokovic continues to compete, adding to a record that was once considered untouchable, then tied, then surpassed. The rivalry that defined a generation is over in its competitive form. But the argument it left behind is clearly nowhere close to being settled. What Nadal said in that documentary was honest. It was personal. It was the kind of opinion that only a man with absolute conviction in what he achieved could say out loud on camera. And whether you agree with him or not, it has done something remarkable. It has made the GOAT debate feel brand new again, even after everything that has already been said and argued and debated over the past 15 years. 14 Roland Garros titles is a miracle of human sporting achievement. There is no other way to describe it. But 24 Grand Slam titles, one across every surface the sport plays on, is something the history of tennis had never seen before Djokovic made it real. Both records deserve to be celebrated. Both men deserve their place at the very top of the sport's all-time list. The only question that remains, and the one that will fuel arguments in tennis communities for decades to come, is which record tells you more about what it means to be truly great. And if Nadal's own words are the starting point of that conversation, then it is going to be a very long, very heated discussion.